35th, the Park Boys, you feel me?
Welcome to Boys in the Hood TV. Today we're going to be discussing the life of Melly from the Athens Park Bloods, who would lose his life in 2021. Now, Melvin Williams, aka Melly, was born April 14, 1995 in South Central. He was born and raised in an area controlled by the notorious Athens Park Bloods. Now, Athens Park has been around since the late 70s and built up a violent reputation in the streets of LA. Now, they are made up of multiple cliques like 124th Street, 127th Street, 129th Street, and 132nd Street. Now, over the years, they've been known to heavily beef with the 10 Deuce Raymonds, the 11-8 East Coast Crips, and others. Now, early on, Melly would fall deep in love with football. And like many kids his age, sports was a big escape to help keep kids away from gangs and off the streets. Now, Melvin would lose his father at an early age, which would affect him deeply. But growing up in the neighborhood, most of his friends were already from the set, so eventually, Melly would get his put on early. Now, although he would run the streets, Melvin had one goal, and that was to become financially stable, to be able to pay for his mama's bills and buy her a house so that she would never, ever have to want again. Now, Melly believed that his one path to get there was through football. Now, his mother would make sacrifices and get her son out of the area to where he can solely focus on playing football. So eventually, Melvin would go on to play varsity football at Citrus High School as a linebacker. Now, he would excel and become a standout player. And by 2013, Melvin would graduate high school and then head off to Chaffey College, where he would play varsity for the next 2 years. Now, with his success at this college, he would then go on in 2016 to North Dakota and play for the Mayville State for 1 year as a defensive end. Now, although this wouldn't be his greatest year, he would still gain a ton of knowledge and meet a lot of new people. Now, by his senior year, Melly would decide to head to Kansas to play for the Tabor Blue Jays. Now, this would be his best year yet. Now, his outstanding performance this year would have eyes on him from the NFL draft, and things would start to really look up for him. But also, from time to time, he would leave school to head back to the hood to kick it with some of his homies on the block. Now, these frequent visits are always dangerous because at any time, something could pop off. And at one point, he would almost lose his life in a shootout while out on the block. But Melly would not let this discourage him or stop him. He would refocus back on football, but trouble would soon find him out there on the field also. Melly would suffer a grade 3 MCL tear. Now, at this point, Melly thought it was over, but his faith in God would keep him going. So he would do rehab, and he would be able to bounce back, and he was actually able to finish out that football season.
Like that.
Yeah, nigga.
That's how we going out.
Yeah, stay like that.
That's how we going out. That's how we going out.
Yeah.
That's how we going out, just like that.
Now, Melly would go on to finish and be in rank number 44 in the nation for his sacks per game. Now, after his standout performance that year, on May 19th, Melly would graduate from college.
Yeah, we moved it over in this motherfucker. He out here, man. He out here. We out here.
But sadly, this celebration will be short-lived because only a few months later, he would get the bad news that his homie from Athens Park, named Day, was shot and killed. Now, Melly will be hurt deep to the core from this loss. But this also will be a reality check for Melly that although he has seen a lot of success with his football career, that a lot of his homies were still in the trenches and still fighting the active war in the streets of LA. But over the next few weeks, he would continue to spend time with his homies on the block, celebrating Day-Day's life. But by July, he would get some good news that he would be making his pro debut, playing for the Berlin Adler football team in Germany. But before leaving, he would make sure that he kicked it off with his homies. And by August of 2019, Melly would make his pro debut. Now, Melly would go on to continue to shine playing football in Berlin and living out his dream as a pro football player. Now, although this isn't the NFL, this was still the pro leagues, so Melly would be getting the bag while playing football. Now, during his offseason, Melly would start head back to LA to pursue his second dream, which was the rap industry. He would upgrade his spot in Gardena and eventually start recording, and he would link up with his homie RJ and YG. And right out the gate, Melly would start dropping music.
Miss my niggas, wish God to call them home, and my eyes full
Now, he would continue building his brand and recording new tracks while running up that bag. But in January 2021, more bad news would come Melly's way when his homeboy Gutter Rex would lose his life. Now, Gutter was a loved member of the Athens Park's blood, and this loss will hurt them deeply. And this will lead Melly to dropping a dedicated track called Gutter World to his homie.
Rex this, Rex that, say his name get whacked. Like Moose said, and he shook the monkey off his back.
But with this loss of Gutter, this would motivate him to lock back in and focus more on his music to really try to help and elevate his hood. But sadly, Melly did not know that death would come for him next. On July 23rd, 2021, at around 10 a.m., Melvin would be heading back to his spot in Gardena. Now, what he did not know was that he had been followed home by a group of men in a vehicle. Now, as Melly got out of his car and headed to his house, a man would exit a vehicle and approach Melly and open fire. The shooter would let off multiple shots, with one fatal shot hitting Melly, causing him to fall to the ground. Neighbors who heard the gunshots would call Gardena PD, who'd arrive shortly after. But sadly, Melvin Williams, aka Melly, would be pronounced dead at the scene at the age of 26. I would like to thank everybody for tapping in, and I'll see y'all next time.